My stepkids declared they only obey their biological parents. Consequently, I replaced the locks, revoked all privileges under my control, and informed their dad that collection was this evening. My stepkids declared they only obey their biological parents. So, I replaced the locks, terminated every privilege registered in my name, and informed their father that pickup was tonight. No one protested. You know what? I once believed that affection and persistence could win over anyone, particularly children. That if I consistently showed up and treated kids with compassion, they'd eventually warm up to me. I learned the hard way that some people, even youngsters, will mistake my kindness for weakness and take my generosity for granted. My name is Eric. I'm 38, and I've been wed to my wife Rachel for 2.5 years. This tale is about the moment I finally stood up for myself and my family, and why sometimes the most caring act is to establish boundaries that truly matter. When Rachel and I tied the knot, we formed a blended family in suburban Phoenix. I brought my 2 children from my prior marriage, Eliza, who's 9, and Frank, who's 7. Rachel brought her 2 kids from her first marriage, Austin, who's 15, and Grace, who's 13. Their biological dad, Nathan, resides about 15 minutes away in Scottsdale and has them every other weekend. From the outset, I strove to be the stepfather I wished I'd had as a kid. I included Austin and Grace in everything: family pizza evenings, vacation planning to spots like Sedona and the Grand Canyon, and even seeking their opinions on household rules. I covered their school supplies at Desert Ridge Academy, sports gear for Grace's volleyball and Austin's basketball, and drove them to practices just as I did for Eliza and Frank. But respect is something you can't force or purchase. The first warning sign appeared about 4 months after we all moved into our home in Ahwatukee. I asked Austin to help bring groceries in from my Ford Explorer, a simple request. Right? He stared me in the eyes and said, "You're not my father. I don't have to follow your orders." Rachel overheard from the kitchen and told him to help anyway, which he did, but with an attitude that made it clear he was only complying because his mom instructed him, not because he respected me as an adult in the household. I let it pass, telling myself he was adjusting, that this was tough for him too. But it didn't improve, it worsened. Austin and Grace developed a habit of selective listening. They'd respond instantly when Rachel asked them to do something, but when I made the same request, they'd act as if I hadn't spoken or give me a blank look and say, "I'll wait for mom to tell me." The breaking point built up in small instances, like when I'd grill burgers and hot dogs for everyone on our back patio, and Austin would make a show of asking Rachel if it was okay to eat what I'd cooked, or when Grace would leave her Starbucks cups and homework strewn across our granite countertops. When I asked her to tidy up, she'd say, "Mom didn't tell me to." Then it started impacting my own children, and that's when everything shifted for me. Eliza came to me in tears one evening because Austin had taken her art supplies, the quality Crayola markers and sketch pads we'd bought together at Target, without permission. When she asked for them back, he told her, "Your dad doesn't set the rules here. Only real parents do." Those words, real parents, hit me like a blow to the stomach. Frank began asking why Austin and Grace didn't have to listen to me like he did. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that some kids in the house follow different rules based on whose DNA they share? I discussed it with Rachel multiple times. She'd talk to Austin and Grace. They'd apologize, and things would be fine for a few days. Then we'd revert to the same pattern. "They're still adjusting," Rachel would say. "Their father fills their heads with notions about loyalty and biological family. Nathan keeps telling them they don't have to respect anyone but him and me. Just give it more time." But time wasn't resolving anything. It was making things worse because Austin and Grace were learning they could disrespect me without real consequences. They were testing boundaries that didn't exist, pushing limits that never pushed back. The tension in our home became stifling. Dinner conversations were awkward. Family movie nights felt forced. And even simple requests like asking someone to pass the remote became charged with unspoken resentment and defiance. I began dreading coming home from my job at the engineering firm. What was once my haven, our beautiful house with desert landscaping and mountain views, had turned into a battlefield where I was constantly treading carefully. Rachel sensed it too. She'd try to compensate by being extra affectionate with me in front of the kids, cooking my favorite dishes, or planning date nights. But deep down, we both knew something fundamental was broken in our family dynamic. The kids felt it too. Eliza and Frank became quieter, more reserved, retreating to their rooms after school instead of hanging out in the living room. Our home, which should have been filled with laughter and chaos, felt eerily subdued most evenings. I tried various approaches. I offered to take Austin to Suns games, hoping one-on-one time might help us connect. He agreed, but spent the entire game texting friends and barely acknowledged my attempts at conversation. I helped Grace with her algebra homework night after night, patiently explaining concepts she found difficult. She'd accept my help but never thanked me or acknowledged that I was going out of my way to support her education. It was like pouring water into a leaky bucket. No matter how much effort I put in, nothing stayed. The incident that changed everything occurred on a Wednesday night in March. I'd had a particularly tough day at work, a project deadline stressing everyone out, and came home hoping for some family time. Instead, I found Frank in his room, tears streaming down his face. When I asked what was wrong, he said Austin had broken his favorite possession, a remote control helicopter we'd built together from a kit last Christmas. When Frank got upset, Austin said, "Tell your dad to buy you a new one. That's all he's good for anyway." The cruelty of that statement, reducing me to a mere wallet, sent a chill through me. I found Austin in our bonus room playing Call of Duty on the PlayStation, acting like nothing happened. "Austin," I said, keeping my tone even. "We need to talk about what happened with Frank's helicopter." He didn't pause his game. "I don't know what you're talking about. You broke his remote control helicopter, the one we built together for Christmas." He shrugged, eyes fixed on the screen. "Accidents happen. This wasn't an accident," I said. "Frank said you threw it down the stairs when he wouldn't let you borrow his Nintendo Switch." Austin finally looked at me, his expression pure defiance. "Frank's lying. And even if he's not, you're not my dad. I don't have to explain anything to you." I felt the familiar surge of frustration, but this time, a cold, calculated clarity emerged. "You're living in my house," I said, striving to stay calm. "You're eating food I buy, using electricity I pay for, playing games on a system I purchased. And you just broke something belonging to my son. You absolutely owe me an explanation." He laughed, actually laughed, and that sound cut through me like a knife. "Your house. Mom pays the mortgage too. Your son, Frank's not even related to me. And you?" His voice turned mocking. "You're just Mom's husband. You're not my parent. You don't make my rules, and I don't answer to you." Something snapped inside me, not anger, but a crystal clear realization of where I stood in this kid's eyes. It wasn't just disrespectful. It was cruel. Instead of shouting or arguing, I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said calmly. "I hear you loud and clear." I walked away from Austin and went to my home office, shutting the door. My hands were steady as I opened my laptop and listed everything in the house registered in my name or paid for by me, the mortgage on our 4-bedroom home in Ahwatukee, utilities, electricity, water, gas, trash pickup, the internet service, the cable package with premium channels, the Verizon family cell phone plan including Austin and Grace's iPhones, the car insurance for Rachel's Honda Pilot, the vehicle she used to drive them to school and activities, the lifetime fitness gym membership we all used, streaming services, Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max, the PlayStation Austin used daily in the bonus room, even the Ring doorbell and security monitoring service. Then I started making calls. I contacted Verizon first, removing Austin and Grace's lines from our plan, effective immediately. The representative warned of early termination fees, but I confirmed I was certain. Next, I called Cox Communications to disconnect our internet and cable the following day, again ignoring fee warnings. I changed passwords for all streaming accounts, the Wi-Fi, and the Ring doorbell app controlling our smart locks. Rachel found me in the office around 10:30 p.m. after her nursing shift at Banner Desert Medical Center. "What are you doing here so late?" she asked, sitting across from my desk. I looked up. My decision had solidified into something unyielding. "Austin made it very clear tonight that I'm not his parent and he doesn't answer to me," I said emotionlessly. "So, I'm ensuring he doesn't have to accept anything from someone who isn't his parent." Her face paled. "Eric, what did you do?" "I'm removing Austin and Grace from everything in my name or that I pay for. Their phones are already disconnected. Internet and cable end tomorrow. I'll need Nathan's address because I'm dropping off their belongings this weekend." "You can't be serious." I met her gaze, and she realized I wasn't bluffing. "Rachel, your son just told me I'm nothing but your husband, that I have no authority in my own home, that my children don't matter because they're not related to him. He's right that I'm not his parent, but that means I'm not responsible for him either." The next morning, while Rachel drove the kids to school, I executed my plan with precision. I packed Austin and Grace's belongings, clothes, electronics, personal items, school supplies, sports gear, into boxes and garbage bags. Their rooms looked empty, like model homes awaiting new residents. I called a locksmith to replace all locks, front door, back door, garage entry, even the backyard pool gate. New keys were made for Rachel, Eliza, Frank, and me, no spares. I moved the PlayStation and its games from the bonus room to my bedroom closet. The 65-inch Samsung TV in the living room was unplugged and relocated to the garage. When the Cox technician arrived to disconnect services, I greeted him personally. Austin and Grace would return to no internet, no cable, no way to access their digital world. The house already felt different, quieter, cleaner, as if a burden had been lifted from the rooms. Around noon, my phone buzzed with texts from Rachel at work. "Eric, please don't do this. We can talk tonight," I replied. "There's nothing to discuss. Austin was clear about where I stand. At 3:15, Rachel called, panic in her voice. We can't get in the house. The key won't work. I changed the locks. I said calmly, Austin and Grace's things are packed and ready for Nathan's. You can't kick out my kids. I'm not kicking them out because they're your kids, Rachel. I'm removing them because they've made it clear they don't recognize my authority in my home. People who don't respect the homeowner don't get to live there. Silence lingered so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, Eric, please. They're just kids. Eliza and Frank are kids. Rachel, Austin is 15, old enough for a job. To drive. To understand actions have consequences. When I arrived home 25 minutes later, Nathan's silver BMW was parked on the street. Rachel had called him, and he'd come from his Scottsdale law office. Austin and Grace sat on the front steps, looking confused and slightly scared. Rachel paced by her Honda, phone to her ear. Nathan stood, arms crossed, in his costly suit, exuding the confidence of someone used to winning arguments. Eric, Nathan said as I exited my truck. This seems extreme over teenage attitude. I looked at him steadily, calmer than I'd felt in months. Nathan, if your son told you you weren't his parent, that he didn't have to listen, and that your kids didn't matter to him, what would you do? Nathan paused, and I saw his expression shift. I'd probably want to teach him a lesson. He admitted, that's all I'm doing, teaching respect and consequences. I turned to Austin and Grace, who watched with wide eyes. I want you both to understand something, I said gently but firmly. This isn't about being mean or petty. It's about respect. You've told me in words and actions that I'm not your parent and you don't answer to me. I accept that. But parents provide for their kids. If I'm not your parent, I'm not obligated to provide for you. Austin, for the first time, looked uncertain. You're really making us leave? He asked, his voice softer. You said I have no authority over you in my house. Austin, you were right, but authority and responsibility go together. No authority means no responsibility. Grace began crying, and it tugged at my heart. But I stood firm. But where will we go? She asked through tears. To your dad's. I said gently. He's your parent. I'm just your mom's husband. Remember? I helped Nathan load their belongings into his BMW and Rachel's Honda, box after box, bag after bag. Evidence of 2.5 years of trying to build a family with kids who never wanted me in it. As they prepared to leave, Austin looked at me again. What if we want to come back? I met his gaze. Then you'll need to decide if you can treat me with the same respect you'd show your father. Because that's what I am in this house, a father figure deserving basic respect. They left with Nathan that night, and our home fell into a silence that was both empty and peaceful. Rachel was furious initially. We had tough conversations over the next few days. She accused me of cruelty, of abandoning her kids, of prioritizing my ego over our family. But I held firm. Rachel, I love you and want to love your kids. But I can't love people who disrespect me and hurt my children. Austin and Grace need to learn actions have consequences, and rejecting my authority means losing my support. Meanwhile, something incredible happened with Eliza and Frank. The house's tension vanished overnight. They did homework unprompted, helped with chores without attitude, and seemed relaxed in their home for the first time in months. They laughed more, talked more, and played freely in our living spaces, like flowers blooming after a long winter. 10 days later, Nathan called. Austin and Grace want to come back, he said. They've been asking daily. What do you think? I asked his opinion. I think they learned something, Nathan said. Austin especially, he's been quieter, more reflective. He realized respect isn't optional in a household. Grace misses her mom and asked me to tell you she's sorry for being rude. Rachel and I discussed it and agreed to let them return, but with clear expectations. When Austin and Grace came back, I sat them down before they brought their bags inside. Before you move in, I said, I need to know you understand this house's rules. I'm not asking you to call me dad or love me like your father, but I expect the same respect you'd show any adult caring for you. Austin nodded, meeting my eyes for the first time. I get it. I'm sorry about what I said about Frank and the helicopter. That was messed up. And I'm sorry for being disrespectful. Grace added quietly. I didn't realize how much you do for us until it was gone. It wasn't perfect right away. There were still moments of tension, times when old habits resurfaced, but something fundamental had shifted. Austin and Grace learned that respect isn't just for those you're related to, it's for those who care for you. 6 months later, Austin approached me for help with chemistry homework instead of waiting for Rachel. Grace began thanking me for driving her to volleyball practice. Small gestures, but they mattered. The real test came a year later when Austin wanted to attend a 21 Pilots concert with friends. He approached Rachel and me together for permission. When Rachel agreed but I raised concerns about the venue and late hour, Austin didn't dismiss me or say he didn't have to listen. Instead, he addressed my concerns seriously, working out a compromise, checking in hourly, having a designated driver, and being home by midnight. That's when I knew we'd truly become a family. Looking back, I don't regret changing those locks. Some called it extreme, but sometimes extreme situations demand clear responses. Austin and Grace needed to learn you can't enjoy family benefits without treating all members with respect. My marriage with Rachel is stronger now. She saw I wouldn't be a doormat but also wouldn't give up on her kids. I was willing to fight for a relationship built on mutual respect, not one-sided obligation. Eliza and Frank learned that respect is non-negotiable in our home and that I'll stand up for them when they're treated poorly. Nathan and I now have a better relationship. He respects that I held his kids accountable, and I respect that he supported the lesson they needed. Sometimes, love means setting boundaries. Sometimes, being a good parent or step-parent means being the bad guy temporarily to teach a vital lesson. Was I wrong to change the locks and remove my stepchildren? Or was it the wake-up call they needed about respect and consequences? The answer lies in what followed and the family we became because of it.